I hope we are right up there in contention to be the official entry of the Oscars. Because once the movie was released, we got to meet Mammootty sir. Saw the movie, he loved it, and he invited us to his home. Nobody believed in the movie otherwise. So just imagine the conviction of a producer to put in crores of rupees when I present such a subject. If I'm going to take this very sensitive topic of a sexual assault,
Yeah.
then what are the dimensions that I can talk about which have not been explored? If you're questioning somebody, you're dismissing a victim, you're not believing it doesn't stand any legal course, but it is a crime to the victim, and it is dumb and stupid to assume that the problem exists only in the movie industry. It is really dumb. It is just everywhere across the world. When I was growing up, in our schools, we were not allowed to talk to each other. Like if we were to talk to each other with girls and all, then that would be a problem. And if we were not allowed to fall in love with each other, what is the problem of falling in love with?
Congratulations on Aattam winning such top honors at the national awards. When you set out to make this film, did you think that it'll receive so much love? Do you really think it'll go on to achieve so much?
Not even remotely anything of that sort. Like our first dream was to finish the movie somehow, just without any hindrance. Because it's such a small movie, because most of us are debutants, and everything else is a bonus.
Aattam, of course, is such an important story, and it's a story that is so relevant that is to what is happening, around us. What is the kind of response you have gotten from the industry?
I have actually not worked in Malayalam at all. The only Malayalam set that I have seen is the sets of Aattam. I have just worked in one Hindi movie with Imtiaz Ali. I don't have much of the industry contacts at all. Because once the movie was released, we got to meet Mammootty sir. Saw the movie, he loved it, and he invited us to his home, and we all went there, and all the actors got a chance to meet him, and it was very, very gracious of him. Post national awards, few of the producers have called, but not much buzz from the industry itself.
But there's absolute love for what you've done. It's not just about the story, which I will want to talk to you in a bit. But what I really want to start off with is talking to you about the style of editing that you have implemented in this movie, which is so different. It's so unique. Why did you think this sort of editing would be important to storytelling?
Yeah, I'm very glad that you asked that question. When I learned that Aattam won the national award for the best editing, myself and Mahesh discussed a lot on the kind of editing style that we should adopt for this movie. Like how their acting is invisible. And like you cannot pick acting. I asked Mahesh that people should not be able to pick edits. It should be totally invisible. Our only intention was that the audience, whoever the viewer is, the audience should feel that he's part of the discussion, not as a mere spectator objectively watching the movie.
I think you totally managed to capture that. One really feels like it's such an immersive experience. Anand, usually the films are like, a reflection of the society we live in. And it is so inspired by the things that are happening around us, no matter what the subject is. An actor, a director, a writer, we pick up things along the way. Right? There's such a stark similarity between your film, what's happened before, like the MeToo movement. Were you ever inspired by those things that were happening or happened earlier? Or if you could just tell me the reason or what inspired you to tell the story?
I have to give a very honest answer. It is not actually inspired by any particular incident. But like you said, of course, it is in the news for the past, such an assault and the whole movement, that everything is in the news for the past few years. But the relevance of the crime has always been there, because unfortunately the crime has always been there from the teenage, when I started to understand, when I started to have female friends and started to have understand women better. That was the time when I used to have a lot of friends, and we started speaking. I was talking to them, and then you hear about these instances. When you become very close to your friends, and when they have a sense of trust, they tend to share stories that they would otherwise not share. I have heard a lot of instances and stories from my friends or from my relatives who are women, and of course I have read, and of course the material is there out there, and probably I believe all those things might have gone to my subconscious, and I might have had observations like any other writer would have. Like you must have already known that all the actors are my friends, and I was writing a film for them. So it was happening in reverse. The cast was already, and I had to decide for a moment what crime it should be. I didn't want it to be a murder mystery. Suddenly, this thing occurred to me. It is not something you think about for a long time, because I was developing the story on the philosophy of, not on the philosophy of gender, not on the perspective of gender, but I was rather developing it as the dynamics of a group versus the dynamics of an individual. So I had 11 men in my hand. So then I thought, if the individual is a woman, there's a contrast, there's a conflict, there is a sudden story there, and it will look great. And then I thought, if I'm going to take this very sensitive topic of a sexual assault,
Yeah.
then what are the dimensions that I can talk about which have not been explored, like especially what happens in a closed room with all men involved. What happens behind doors, what are the real conversations that could occur around such a conflict.
Like you said just now, I wanted to bring forth the story of what happens behind closed doors when men are talking about a sexual assault. And I think
Right.
that is a very interesting kind of perspective to also show the audience, because one would only think that they would be dismissive at first, is what I thought. But I was very happy to see that the conversation was not all dismissive. In fact, there were huge supporters and some doubtful, but there were never this sense of dismissiveness from anyone
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
I thought it
yeah,
was
yeah.
very interesting. I have to talk about the end of the film. I wanted to know who did it. It's a who done it without knowing who
Yeah.
did it.
Because there are two crimes happening in the movie. One is very obvious. Somebody has sexually assaulted the lady character. But then something else happens, which is the audit of the crime, which is the audit of the victim herself. And it was not done in good intentions. I'm not saying that, if a certain somebody has been assaulted, it is not that, no question should be asked or anything of that sort, because the court has its own procedures. But the problem here is because the men have already have invested their personal stakes in it. They don't want to believe her in the first place. So I wanted to explore this aspect of what happens to our sense of justice when our personal stake is involved in a crime. Be it not just this crime, any crime. Suddenly our sense of justice is altered. If I were to show who did the crime, then the movie would have totally been about that particular thing. The second crime would have never been, it will never be discussed. You will not know uh, the heaviness or the layers of the second crime, which is not a legal crime. Auditing. If you're questioning somebody, you're dismissing a victim, you're not believing it doesn't stand any legal course, but it is a crime to the victim. That is exactly why I was like very sure that not to reveal the culprit, because then it would just be about that person. Yeah, he did it. And like how we want, even now, how the names are important and how the people are important, and how how the real problem is not addressed.
But I guess you're right, because the minute I didn't know who did it, a lot of my energy was invested in the way she was being questioned, in the way she was being victim blamed. Because if there was closure, and if I knew who did it, I would not think so much about the way she was treated.
Exactly.
That is very interesting. There's so many parallels being drawn to your film and to currently what's happening in the Malayalam cinema, right, with the Hema Committee. As a director, when you're looking at it, what do you think about what's going on in the industry currently?
I was speaking to my actors, and one of the actors was telling me, like, why don't we put the trailer of our movie again, and with some relevant context. I told him, like, the movie is not as important as the issue itself. We cannot encash a very serious issue. I cannot take that route. I am nobody. I'm nobody higher to anything that happens in the society. Neither the film is. It is just a reflection. It is just an exposition of a certain crime. And it is very unfortunate that there are similar things happening around at this current time. Let the issue be addressed in its greatest capacity, and let the whole focus be on the issue itself.
Like you said, I didn't want to encash on something so serious.
Yes,
just
yes.
so the film gets noticed a bit more. I don't think there'll be many people who would have been able to do that, because what's happening around us is very serious. These assaults are happening to real people. It's a real issue that plagues not just Malayalam industry. Do you think that other industries should follow suit and probably adapt to something like a Hema committee should exist in every other industry as well, that creates a safe space for female?
I hope so, and not just film industries, every industry, like every space. I believe that if we have a very peripheral approach to it, like crime and punishment kind of an approach to it, these things will not get solved. And I think deep systemic changes right from this areas of education has to happen. It just becomes news value, and it just becomes news and discussions and debates of the elite. You're not addressing the real issue. And it is dumb and stupid to assume that the problem exists only in the movie industry. It is really dumb. It is just everywhere across the world, and especially more in developing nations. And it is clearly because the education has not penetrated, and there are so many. It is such a complex issue. Why are we regressive? Why? What is the position? What is the contribution of societies, religion, education, and everything in when to a crime? What leads to the development of that kind of a person? But I don't see any kind of discussions on that front because people are not interested to go deep because that requires work. The other one just requires a lot of debate and a lot of dialogue, which is quite easy. I hope there are governmental policy changes, and especially in sectors of education.
No, I absolutely agree with you. It just cannot be the law. It's about educating.
I honestly believe, Swati, that a great dialogue should happen between men and women without bashing each other, wounding each other with concepts and ideas, but just real dialogue with like how mature conversation should happen. And I really feel that friendship should be encouraged from school level between men and women because our society and our schools are kind of we are not like when I was growing up our schools we were not allowed to talk to each other like if we were to talk to each other with girls and all then that would be a problem. And if we were not allowed to fall in love with each other, what is the problem of falling in love with each other, having a crush on somebody or anything of this? So unless and until there is a strong friendship that develops between men and women, they will not know each other. The very complex problem.
Director, now of course you said you worked with Imtiaz Ali in Bollywood, and this is your first film as a debut director. What are some of the things that say you've seen on the sets of an Imtiaz Ali film and on your own set? What are some of the things that you do to ensure that women feel they're in a safe space?
I don't think I'm the right person to talk about all these things. To be very honest, I don't think I'm equipped because ours is a very small film now. It's a surprise that the movie has become big in terms of with the national award and all, but it was just a scaled up short film probably like because the budget was small and all that. But within my ability, like for example, like with Zarin, I made sure that there was direct communication and there was nobody in between. If she has any need, she can speak to me. We were not in a position to give her a lot of remuneration or as a production and not great stays, but we made sure that she was around me. Somewhere we all stayed in the same house. She got a room for herself, and there was also a female AD who was always with her.
And just going back to the conversation with Zareen, when I spoke with her, she had said that on most days on the sets, a woman is made to feel like she's dispensable, and that the man is everything, and the film is being made because there's a man. If you had to kind of say, look at the industry at a large, if we are not just talking about, say, about the Malayalam film industry, and just as a director, right? What are some of the things you think that the industry could collectively do to kind of better as to and also make female actors feel safer?
Honestly think it's already happened. It's already happening. It's not that it's just so far away. And I think it is all this news and all the reports and every movement is happening in the Malayalam industry because there's a movement happening for change, and because there is also the changes happening, right? WCC has been an amazing movement. I think it is simple. It is very simple to have that sense of equality and to understand that people are equal. It doesn't mean that people will not have problems with each other and suddenly every movie set will become a paradise. The kind of pressure that because time is money, Swati, like every hour you're burning lakhs. So there is huge pressure to finish the movie, and in that pressure, there will be a lot of human conflicts.
It's a part of every organization.
Every organization and every part. So for a movie to happen, there is even even if you like it or even if you don't like it, there is a hierarchical structure in a movie set. Like there is a producer, there is a director, and there is somebody taking decisions. There is somebody okaying with the decision. There is somebody adhering to the decisions, but it is a temporary setup. That doesn't mean by any means that there should be some sort of that should eventually allow some sort of exploitation, or any sexual assault. That is a clear shut door. An easier way would be to have a clear set of code of conduct or rules, or some panel which is working in every movie set where there is somebody to take care of these things. Not just there are so many issues that would happen on a film set. Not just this thing. Not just
Yeah.
not just women issues, pay issues, payment disparity issues, issues with food, issues with stay, issues with so many other things. So even if it is a two-person body or a one-person body, somebody should be there on set who will be there to completely take care of these things. It is really ridiculous to assume that, a filmmaker, the director of the movie, has to take care of all these things. It is actually practically impossible. Even on a very small film set like Aattam, which had 70 people. Imagine having a film set which is normally, like when I was working in Tamasha, it had at least an average of 200 to 300 people. And how will you know what is happening in the corners of a set? And
I would like to come back to your film. I'm just going back to Zareen's conversation because this is something that I realized while she was talking. Again, when she told me, a lot of people after watching the film came up to her and said, we didn't get closure, yeah, while watching the film. And Zareen was like, I was thinking their closure was probably the person who committed the crime should have been behind bars or should have, been taken to court.
Yeah.
And as she was saying that, I was thinking to myself, it somewhere also feels like, the entire movement that we had, MeToo movement, there were so many conversations. Like you said, there was no systematic change. There were just conversations that happened. It all went down. The film somewhere that time at that time reminded me or made me feel like a commentary on also on what happened. Did you by any chance feel this was like a self commentary on what also happened in the industry at large?
No, never, never. I have certain things that I really believe in. For me, a cinema is an absolute work of art, and I honestly don't like myself, taking a route of any preachiness, even to an extent of I don't have any particular social message or anything. For me,
Right.
I believe that a work of art is for to create a space of reflection. I don't like breaking the fourth wall and and consistently poking the audience to think beyond while watching the movie, to think beyond the cinema and see this is the current news, look into the political aspects of the film, look here, look, no, that can be done later in their own spaces.
Yeah, this long journey that you've had with Aattam, what are
Right.
your three top takeaways from this entire
uh,
experience of making the film?
Everyone believed in the movie except for, like, say, the producer and Vinay himself.
Yeah.
Everybody believed in the movie after they saw it. You
Oh,
understand? So, like, it is very, I don't have a problem with anybody, because it is very difficult to believe or understand this movie before it is made. I remember during the production days, like, there are a lot of production people on set, like they're all wondering what sort of a movie is this. Like, everybody's talking from morning to evening, around the table they go outside, they're talking, what sort of a movie is this? Like, 26 days everybody's talking to each other.
yeah.
They were like assuming that this is a sure flop or some intellectual stupid movie. My biggest takeaway, and it was always there in the first place, that only you take any film, only a director will know the totality of the film. If it is a successful film, I truly believe it is a collaborative vision. And if anything fails, it is the sole responsibility of the director.
You completed the film and you watched it, say, with everybody. When you walked out of the screening, what was the first thought you had?
I felt very happy. About 90% of the movie is what I really thought wanted it to be. There was a sense of a lot of completeness, and there is this great relief of your first film is down. You're done with your first film. So your first film is always a challenge.
Yes.
So
And it
yeah.
wins national awards.
And I felt very happy for the producer. Like in every conversation, nobody talks about the producer. Unless and until there is a producer, no movie is ever made. Like I said, nobody believed in the movie otherwise. So just imagine the conviction of a producer to put in crores of rupees when I present such a subject. When I'm a newcomer, and when there are so many newcomers, he had n number of other choices which were like sure commercial hits out there. And why did he choose such a subject? Never would have thought that he would win a national award or anything of that sort. When the national awards happened, and on the day that he's going to take the medal from the president for the best movie, I think that will be my proudest moment, and he totally deserves it.
Making such a collaborative aspect, the producer, the director, the writers. I really think the writers need to kind of be spoken about so much more as well.
100%.
Before you go, I have one last question for you. If your debut film is ready and it's won national awards, you think Oscars are on the card for this one?
There's been some serious discussion about it going on about it. I really don't know. I hope, we were the opening film of the Indian Panorama at the IFFI, which was a huge thing, which was a huge honor. Then we got the best film, not just the best film, the best screenplay and best edit, which I believe is the spine of every movie. So I hope we are right up there in contention to be the official entry of the Oscars. I hope it happens because it really would help the film go to reach to a wider audience. It will create more dialogue around it. More people will get to watch it around the world. Most importantly, Swati, it will also inspire more producers and more filmmakers to embark on smaller movies which have some serious content in it, and
I
also
know.
considering the precedents, the movie Court. I think the Marathi movie, The Court, was once the official entry of and it was a national award-winning film as well at that point of time. So I hope.
I hope so too. I'm wishing you all the best and your team all the best.
Thank you so much.